Oh, hey, it's Brian and Logan from IGN. And for 7 years, Metroid Prime 4 was literally just a logo. It was a logo with some animated space graphics behind it. But since E3 2017, that's all this was. But finally, it's a actual game that exists. It's getting released this year. And we played it on Nintendo Switch 2. And we can't wait to tell you all about it. Check it out. Okay, so Logan, 2017, you and I were in different places, but both watching the Nintendo Direct showcase, whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
And we saw the reveal of Metroid Prime 4. We got ecstatic, lost our minds, and then it was radio silence for a very long time. What happened there?
Yeah, people screamed in the room I was in E3 2017 at that reveal. It was a huge deal. It was one of the last times Nintendo ever just showed us a logo, because I think it was a learning experience with what happened with Metroid Prime 4, but we didn't hear about it for a long time. Nintendo said Retro Studios isn't working on this. They're the developers of Prime 1 through 3, and there was reported that Bandai Namco were responsible for the original iteration of Prime 4, but in January 2019, that version was completely scrapped, and Nintendo returned Metroid Prime home to Retro Studios, who had to start completely from scratch. They were hiring for this. They were hiring concept artists, and they started at the very beginning in 2019, so it's been about 6 years now, which is pretty standard, I think, for a AAA video game, you know, starting from zero to being a fully released game on 2 platforms. So it feels like it's been longer because of that initial tease, but it's actually been pretty normal, but it's real now, it's here, and we've played it on Switch too.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I think the first thing we noticed walking up to the demo to play this game was that Metroid Prime 4 on Switch 2 is a really beautiful game.
Yeah.
It is smooth and crisp and stunning. It's being advertised as running at 120 frames per second, which obviously you won't get when you play it on Switch 1, but it's a really ambitious goal on Switch 2, and it's something I hope that they can stick to. Now, obviously, we'll have to play the full game, go through some of the sort of bigger, crazier environments, take on some of the giant, very scaled, large boss fights, and see how well it all holds up. But for now, what we saw looks really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it did, and what we saw was what you saw at the June 2024 kind of re-reveal trailer for Prime 4. It was that opening area where Samus lands in her gunship, and it seems like the first 10 minutes of the game, where it's this very cinematic, linear hallway shooter. Feels very Halo in some ways, and the boss we fought looked like an elite from Halo. Like a lot of Metroid Prime folks worked on Halo 4, so it's kind of this lineage that goes back and forth. But it was just gorgeous, and there's spaceships up in the background in the horizon firing these laser beams across the entire screen that look gorgeous. It runs great. It's the smoothest running Nintendo game we've ever seen. We've never seen 120 FPS before for a Nintendo game, and it was gorgeous. It felt like a showpiece for Switch 2, which is what people have been wanting it to be.
I completely agree. I kept doing things just like clicking in and out of Morph Ball mode just to see Samus pop in and out of third person, just to see how smooth that was. Rolling around felt really good. Blasting at doors and watching them swing open without having to wait for them to load was really nice. You know, I'm such an old school GameCube Metroid Prime head that like when I'm shooting at a door and it opens immediately, I'm like, what sort of sorcery is this? But yeah, it looked really cool, and we got to fight a boss in the demo, which had multiple phases, had a bunch of different attacks, and had a bunch of different ways to sort of navigate around the environment. Pretty big room, and you get to fight some grunts along the way, and then it ends in a cutscene where things start to open up a little bit. I really can't wait to see how big this galaxy is, what exploration is like from planet to planet or place to place, because they've always been really good about the sense of scale in these games, and I have a feeling Metroid Prime 4 is going to be no different.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of hard to talk about this one from a preview standpoint, because like we said, we didn't do any super Metroid-y things in this. We didn't find a new power-up and then use that power-up to escape that room. Now, this was just the opening kind of tutorial area, but it felt really, really good. And Brian, one reason it felt so good was the mouse controls.
Yeah, so Metroid Prime as a series has always had a sort of interesting connection with non-traditional controls. Now, obviously, the GameCube versions of Metroid Prime 1 and 2 were about as traditional as you can make for a once 2D side-scrolling game, now turned to a 3D first-person action-adventure shooter.
Don't call it a shooter. Nintendo doesn't call it a shooter.
With third-person elements, such as Morph Ball, or every time you went into, saving mode or got a new upgrade. But after that, all bets were kind of off. Metroid Prime 3 had pointer controls and motion controls. The Nintendo DS version of Metroid Prime Hunters had touchscreen controls. There was a Prime pinball that shipped with a Game Boy Advance shaped rumble pack. Whatever they did in the Prime soccer game that we don't talk about. And now Metroid Prime 4 has mouse controls. And the way that works is really interesting. Now, Nintendo's promised harnessing some really cool new features with the Joy-Con in Nintendo Switch 2. And I think the biggest upgrade is sort of that you can turn your Joy-Con sideways and put them on a flat surface and use them as like a PC gaming mouse with haptic feedback on them. And how this works in Metroid is you can aim and shoot at the screen using your dual analog setup with a little bit of motion control, pointer control aspects too. But then the second you turn your controller sideways and put it on a flat surface, the game instantly recognizes that you're using it as a mouse, and a little sort of green reticle pops up in the center of the screen. This was awesome.
Yeah, I totally expected that to switch to mouse controls, it would have been something you'd have to go to a menu to do.
Yep.
That just makes sense. I think about Prime Remastered, which you could play traditional stick controls, the traditional GameCube lock-on way, or the Prime Trilogy motion control way, and you had to go into the settings to kind of toggle those on and off. But mouse controls, it's like Brian was saying. I was pointing the Joy-Con at the screen, aiming to shoot, and then you just turn it sideways, plop it on the mouse mat, and it instantly recognizes you're in mouse mode now, and you can aim around, and it feels really, really good. I think the Joy-Con mouse, it's a little thinner to hold than I would like as a mouse. I kind of expected Nintendo, and they still might, to sell us like a peripheral that you slot the Joy-Con into to give it more of a feel of a PC mouse. And
that would be very funny.
Yeah, they still might. But it otherwise felt good. It was really, really responsive. It felt like you're playing with a PC mouse.
Yeah.
It's really, really impressive. And then the only other thing is sometimes you have to like awkwardly crane your thumb or your pointer finger to hit a face button, like to go into morph ball mode or something like that. But Metroid Prime maps most of the buttons to the triggers, so you don't have to do that super often. So I can see this becoming the preferred way for a lot of people to play Prime 4. It felt really, really good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I was able to hit the bosses with a bunch of charge shots pretty easily. Aiming felt like so much more precise. Now, again, if you just want to play dual analog, like totally go for it. No one cares, right? That's up to you. Play it at your own pace.
Yeah, or motion controls, whatever. They all work, and they all work well.
Yeah, so I really dig that. And so I feel like this is the way I'm going to be playing this game for the most part when I'm not in handheld mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't get to play it in handheld mode, and I think that's where sort of bets are off in terms of how well it's running, or 120 FPS being an option or not. But in the meantime, the game looks gorgeous, feels really great. But I do want to talk a little bit about how there is some confusion about the upgrade path here. Now, Nintendo Switch 2, when it got announced with its price and release date, there was a bunch of games from Switch 1 that had sort of Switch 2 versions.
Yes.
Now, some of those have sort of free upgrades. Things like Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening will just naturally run better on Switch 2. But Prime 4 has a big wall of text on the box that we should probably talk about.
Yeah, so these are called Nintendo Switch 2 editions, and they are next-gen versions of last-gen games. So Prime 4, being developed for most of its life as a Switch game, it says on the box of the Switch 2 version, included is the Nintendo Switch version of Metroid Prime 4, along with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition upgrade pack. It's a word salad, and it's a lot going on there, but it is going to look a lot nicer, right? The 120 FPS, the mouse controls, these are choices that are only going to be on the Switch 2 version, but that is going to cost extra. There's 3 different tiers, like you were saying, Brian. There are free updates, which is things for Echoes of Wisdom or Link's Awakening, which is just stability. It'll look nicer and run nicer on Switch 2. There's the $10 upgrade path, which is things that aren't like DLC content packs, but more like upgrades to the core experience. We're thinking that's where Metroid Prime 4 is going to fall, in the $10 upgrade path. And then there's things like the $20 upgrade path, which we see for Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV, which I think is the longest video game title in Nintendo history. That is a $20 upgrade path because you're getting the Switch 2 enhancements that work with the new USB-C camera, but you're also getting new minigames and things like that. So it's really interesting. It's a lot to wrap your head around. I think we're used to it at this point.
Maybe.
It's maybe. Yeah, I don't know what I just said, but it's all still soaking in. But for the average consumer, that's a lot.
Do you think there's a universe where we buy Metroid Prime 4 on Nintendo Switch 2, but the Nintendo Switch 1 version is the only version on the cart, and then you'll be prompted to pay the $10 extra for the Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4?
Yeah, we don't know what comes on the cartridge yet. I have to think the Switch 2 upgrade comes on the cartridge for the Switch 2 edition.
I hope so, Logan.
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
Please, Nintendo.
Please, Nintendo. Anyways, we will go beyond all of our coverage with Metroid Prime 4 all year long until the game is out and beyond that, because IGN's the #1 place for all things video games. So thank you so much for rocking with us right here, talking about Metroid Prime 4 and the Switch 2. Plenty of questions to be answered in the future, but for now, everything we played feels really cool, looks really great, and we can't wait for more. Thank you, Logan.
Thanks, Brian. Beyond.
Beyond. Hey.